What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode number 17 of RizzoCast. I'm Steven Rissotto, and we are joined by, and I'm going to butcher your name. I already know this completely. Is it Arden Cravalho?
Yep. Close. It's Arden Cravalho.
Cravalho. Okay, Arden Cravalho.
Yep. There you go. Yep.
And Arden is a production assistant at NBC Sports Authentic, NBC Sports Bay Area, otherwise known as, and a sports producer for 95.7 The Game. He's also a multimedia journalist at Slipper Still Fits, which is a Gonzaga Bulldogs page, and he's also a podcast host for Busting Brackets, which is the fan side account for college basketball. And one thing that we were joking about and what kind of connected us here, this is Serra connection. Serra grad, Gonzaga grad, which is a combination that I've actually heard before. So that's kind of interesting. So Arden, what's going on with you? How's it going?
Just taking it day by day right now. We got sports back, which makes it a lot easier. I've been watching a lot of basketball daily, and of course, catching up with the Giants baseball. So things are looking up in the world.
Yes, they are. They are. And I've talked to so many people over this quarantine. I've done a lot of these shows, and the common trend is people pick up on new stuff, and it's kind of interesting because I've picked up on a lot. I've done a lot of reading. I've picked up on door dashing, which isn't something I expected to be doing heading into this period. So that's kind of interesting. So I was wondering, what have you been doing during this period?
Yeah, I would say a little bit more reading. Like, there's been some books stacked up that I've gotten from my grandparents, from friends, and one from an author who wrote a book about the history of the Philadelphia 76ers and their, the race to a championship. So those are the type of books that I've been interested in and taking a part of during this quarantine. Also, one of my favorites is that I've reread multiple times is the Fab Five Michigan basketball story back in the 80s and 90s. So yeah, just reading up on some sports books around the house.
Awesome. So, you mentioned sports are back, and it is awesome. I think it's given a lot of people a distraction, away from all of this stuff. So it's kind of interesting. NBA's
Definitely.
back with the bubble. Major League Baseball's back with no bubble, but they've had some cases. So I was wondering what your thoughts are in terms of the state of sports right now.
Sorry, you cut out there a little. What was the question? You were talking about baseball and the bubble, or the situation with baseball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so pretty much the state of sports. Everybody's kind of getting a distraction and such with basketball back, baseball back.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the state of sports right now? Is it healthy? Are they doing, because obviously this is all they could do pretty much with the situation given. So what do you think about the state of sports right now?
Yeah. Well, I think if we had to break it down, obviously the NBA is doing it the best, like with the bubble in Orlando. Just reported today, again, they said 0 reported cases of coronavirus in the bubble since July 29th. When they first started testing those players in the bubble. And so that's a great success story right from the beginning. And I think that they'll continue to continue this greatness or success throughout the playoffs until the NBA championship. So when I see that, I think the NFL has to learn from that immediately. And I wish the MLB could have done that, but it was just a little with their whole contract talks between the MLB Players Association and the owners of the baseball teams. That was obviously not an option, not available to them. So now I see the NFL, Roger Goodell, have to learn from what the NBA has done. Try to find locations with multiple bubbles that are able to work for them. And now let's go to the MLB, which is obviously started off good until this whole Florida case with the Marlins. I mean, it's tough. It's a tough situation to deal with the whole coronavirus situation. My thing with it is don't hold anything back. The Marlins at one point were holding cases or holding information back to the MLB about their players and their symptoms, and that's something you just can't do. So maybe you could say that where they are now with all these players having the coronavirus, that's because they held it back. They didn't tell the truth up front. So that's my only real issue with it. We're glad that now they're back to playing baseball. They played a game against the Baltimore Orioles yesterday, and they're playing today. I think they got the win in that game, actually, over the Orioles. So that's good to hear. Other teams, obviously, are still being postponed, like the Philadelphia Phillies. Their games are being postponed. But hopefully we get back to a point where we can actually play ball. Everybody can play ball.
For sure. So do you think that it was, obviously it's so important to report these results and symptoms and such. Do you think that a lack of, I don't know if violation is the right word, but lack of attentiveness to the protocols? Do you think, protocols were being broken? We heard the thing about the Atlanta nightclub. So what do you think was going on with the Marlins in terms of maybe not following the rules?
I like how you brought the Atlanta nightclub situation with Lou Will, because that's what I think exactly happened. I mean, Florida is a party town, and I know they were traveling down to Atlanta, and that's what they're saying, where they contracted it, but who knows for sure where they actually contracted it, because it's just hard to tell. And I think it might have been maybe a little party situation similar to Lou Will going to a nightclub in Florida, having nightclubs everywhere when you turn around the street, so around the corner and down the street. So yeah, I think that's kind of where my head's at and where this virus actually started.
Yeah. So, and of course, baseball's come back with. You mentioned the negotiations between the players and Major League Baseball, which was that's a different discussion in its own. It was a mess.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I'm just glad we're past that, honestly.
yeah, that was such a mess, and I already know it's
It
going to be
really was.
something that we're going to have to deal with come after 2021. But do you like some of these new rules, like the DH in the National League, runner at second base to start extras, 3-batter minimum? Do you dig kind of what they, an introduction to maybe the new school of baseball?
I'm a fan of the DH. I'm not as much of a fan of the second base, putting a player on the second base in extra innings. Just, I don't think it's really authentic to baseball. I don't really like the idea of it. It's just seems a little cheap in my mind. And then what was the other one? The 3 batters. Yes, I mean, it makes sense. I understand the whole point of it, speeding up the game, and obviously part of that rule was implemented because of Bochy and his always switching pitchers in after one batter, depending on who's lefty or righty or what the deal is, how he is up against this pitcher, like what's his stats, his career stats against this pitcher. So it's a whole analytics game, and I understand that. And the whole point of it is to speed up the game. It also kind of ruins the game in a little bit, in a way, because of the idea of Bochy like having to put in this certain pitcher for a lefty against a lefty batter or whatever the case may be. I understand it goes both ways, so that one I can live or die with.
Yeah, Logi is an awesome term, to be honest with you. And guys like Javier Lopez and Randy Choate is another one that comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys wouldn't
Yeah.
have careers with this new 3-batter minimum rule.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't like it that much. Runner at second base, it's cool to try out this year.
It seems cheesy.
Yeah, it is cheesy. A little bit of it is, and the argument against it is, this is something that they do after summer ball games, and there's a team coming up after that wants to play, and they got to cut down on time. So that's interesting. But and also the DH, I don't mind it. I think more offense the better. Pitching is good enough. So I think it does.
I think
add,
exactly.
Yeah, it does add to the game. So San Francisco Giants, they're 5-7 at the time of this recording. What were your expectations for them going into this year? Obviously, with the new expanded postseason, I guess there's a chance, but on paper, they're kicking the ball left and right. They have the most errors in the game. Let's start with your expectations. Where were your expectations before the year?
Well, on Twitter, I always like to joke and just have a good time with it. So I was saying like, oh, they're definitely a wild card team, and I'm just screwing around, like having fun with some people. And then I gave my realistic pick, and I thought they would be around 20 and 40. I thought that's where their mark is. And wow, that first start to the season was something unheard or unexpected from most Giants fans. It was really something to watch. And now the last 3 games, this is my normal Giants. There's always something wrong with them.
Exactly. Yeah. There's kicking the ball around. We've seen bad throws. We've seen guys not covering their bases.
Yeah, the simple things that professional athletes should be able to do like right away.
Yeah, and it shows just how much baseball is a mind game. And Gabe Kapler, obviously first year's manager. There's that one game where he made the mistake. After the pitching coach came out, he went to go remove the Tyler Rogers. It was, and you can't do that. You can't have 2 mound visits in a row. So if you were to give Gabe Kapler a grade,
and then after that incident, I feel like most of the players kind of just like followed in his footsteps and started making those mental errors. Because once you see that the higher up is doing that, I might be doing that too.
Yeah, exactly. It's a ripple effect. It really is, and that really was the turning point. Now that you bring it up, it was the turning point. And I guess it's too early to say that there is turning points, but that was a good call right there. So if you were to give him a grade, what would it be? First year manager, our first Giants manager, Giants manager.
I might have to dock him a point for that little incident on the mounds, but I'd give him I guess a C plus. It's above passing, and it's more than I expected from him. I was gonna at this point probably give him a C minus. So that jumped up 2 points right there. So props to him. Let's see if he can continue it, maybe get in that B range.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about WCAL stuff now. Obviously, this is near and dear to my heart, near and dear to your heart. This is the league. I'm sorry. This is the league in California. If we're talking about any type of trying to get recognized in California as a high school player, this is the league you want to play in. Do you agree with that?
I try to tell people that I meet in LA and San Diego from college, and they say that their leagues are the best. We're one of the top leagues in California. And I try to tell them, no, you have never experienced WCL athletes and the competition in this league. And it's been like that for the past 100 years and whenever it started. So yeah, no, without a doubt, WCL is the top premier league in California.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've played 4 years of high school. Well, I don't know if you count this year because we never actually did start league play.
I'll give it to you.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm a
4-year varsity.
4-year. Yeah, exactly. So, it's so especially when you start to get south a little bit more. So the San Francisco teams, they could compete in some things. Maybe not as much football, but you go down south to, where you went, Serra, then you go even further down, Mitty, St. Francis, Valley Christian. These are some really powerhouse teams. Bellarmine, yeah. So which one of, when you went, so when did you graduate?
2015.
2015. So, if you were to pick anybody that you saw, maybe during that time, maybe a little bit before, maybe even after, pick an athlete, which one would you say was the most electric at what he did?
I'm going to give you one that's non-Serra, and then I'm going to give you one that is Serra. So the non-Serra one, without a doubt, it's one of the easiest answers that I've given to this question. It's Aaron Gordon. I got to see Aaron Gordon at least, I think, 4 times in person. My favorite time is when it was his senior year in 2014. They were playing at Serra, and we have not been able to beat Midi at Serra since for the past 6 years, 7 years. It was a long time at that point, and they shut him down completely. I think he barely got like maybe 15 points, which is not he's more around the 25 range when he was playing WCAL basketball. And that was just one of the best moments ever. But then right afterwards, when we got a chance to play them in the WCAL championship at Foothill College, which no longer exists, which I wish they brought back. It was a lot of fun. He dominated us, absolutely dominated us. I remember he missed a layup, and then he just grabbed his own rebound in the air or off the miss and dunked it right over one of our biggest men. And I knew right from there, I was like, oh, he's coming for revenge after that loss at Serra. And then the Serra athlete, I would say, has to be Eric Wilson. He was a running back at Serra my freshman year. And I grew up going to football games at Serra. I enjoyed it a lot. But right around that time, maybe like Patrick Walsh's like third or fourth year in 2010 and 2011 is when the Serra football team really just took it up a notch, and they just turned it on and started winning a bunch of different games. And Eric Wilson was one of the first players that really stood out to me on that Serra team. He went on later to be a running back at University of Washington. He played there for a couple of seasons, didn't do anything afterwards. But when he was at Serra, he was electric. He was must-see football.
Yeah, Aaron Gordon is definitely a name that, I ask a lot of people that question. That is the name that comes up the most. And I had a conversation
It has to.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Reardon's strength and conditioning coach,
Okay.
who was there, during that time. And he said that because Reardon, I'm sure you've been there to the gym and such.
Yeah.
It's a really nice gym, and when it's packed,
It's
a
very
really
cool
great atmosphere. Yeah, and he said that when Aaron Gordon played there, you could not find a seat. You could not even find standing room only. It was so amazing to watch him play. And honestly,
Yeah.
the other guys just look not even, he was on a different level when he was with Midi. So it's pretty incredible. And Reardon had a good basketball team this year. It's a shame that they didn't get to keep going.
I know. I got to go to the Serra Reardon game at Reardon. I went there with my uncle, who's just a Serra basketball nut, and he goes to every game. And I thought that Reardon team, that was the best Reardon team I've probably seen in my lifetime. Like, it was so talented with Jelani Clark and Bryce Monroe and Moxer. Is that how you say that, Moxer?
Morsek.
Morsek. See, I was like, I knew I was wrong on that one. But anyway, Morsek, he was just ginormous, cleaning up every rebound. He was a good outlet passer, which was good to see from the size, because that's part of the game that I think big men really need to improve. Like, if you look at Nikola Jokic, a big man that can pass the ball. That's just a big part of the game that people at his height, need to improve on. So when I saw that, I was like, this team's really got it. They have all the different pieces that are built for a state championship run, and then unfortunately they got stopped from that.
Yeah, that was a really good group. I covered a few games for a high school newspaper where I was the editor-in-chief, and and I've done my fair share of history projects with Mr. Jelani Clark. So it's going to be awesome to see what happens with them moving forward.
Oh, okay.
Those individuals. That's pretty awesome that you got to see them play, because it was so fun watching them for sure.
They were talented.
In terms of
They're
athletes,
very talented.
Yeah, exactly. In terms of athletes that I've seen come out of the WCL, a lot of them, are not up yet. Some of them have gone pro. A lot of them are not up yet. But the one, in terms of baseball that I've people have told me that has been standout when he was in this league has been Mitch Haniger, who is currently with the Seattle Mariners. And I believe he was a two-sport star at Midi. Played football. I don't think he played basketball, but he definitely played football and baseball. But all the baseball.
Yeah, I don't think he played basketball. I would have remembered that name.
Yeah, all the people rave about him. So that's the one that I've heard a lot. And before I came to Reardon, I saw Hunter Bishop actually play a couple of varsity games. And, I didn't think much of him, to be honest. He wasn't a standout guy at the time. Even at ASU, he was not a standout his first 2 years.
Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. I was
So
about to
Hunter
say his
Bishop,
junior year was that his big year that made him so high up because he was a beast in his final season at Arizona State. But yeah, when he was when he first came to Sarah, he was originally supposed to be there only to be the starting quarterback. Like that was the thing. Like we didn't think we knew he played baseball, but we wanted him to be the guy, the starting quarterback for the Sarah Padres. And he did do that his junior year, and he enjoyed it. But then he quickly switched his mind. He said, "No, I'm done with football. I'm going to focus completely on baseball." And that obviously turned out to be the best decision he's ever made in his life.
yeah, for sure. So how much do you guys hear about? Because I shadowed Sarah before,
Mm-hmm.
Reardon. I didn't like it, but
Mm-hmm.
how much did you guys hear about Barry Bonds and Tom Brady? Because those guys are gods there, especially Brady because he still does a lot in terms of funding. The field's named after him.
Yeah.
So how much do you guys hear about those two
Oh,
when you guys are on campus?
all the time, like constantly. Most of the Sarah staff is Sarah alumni, so they would be constantly saying that either they were classmates with Tom Brady, they taught Barry Bonds, or they knew Lynn Swan at the time. They were like in the same. They were at Sarah at the same time as Lynn Swan. So yeah, you hear about those names all the time, and then of course in my family, we're all Serra Padres. It goes down deep in the Cravalho family. So we constantly talk about the star athletes that have come across the Serra hallways. So yeah, you hear about it a lot. And then when you tell friends, like I had a cousin that was visiting and we went up to the city and I don't know why it came up. Like I think he was talking about Austin Rivers and he went to the same high school as Austin Rivers. And then he asked what kind of alumni went to my school. And I said, I listed them off, Barry Bonds, Tom Brady, Lynn Swan. He said, "No, you're lying. You're absolutely lying." And I said, "No, you can search it. Like that's the truth." And some people are just shocked by that answer.
Yeah, that is so crazy. Two very possible goats at their sport going to the
Yes,
same high
yes,
school. Like, what are the odds of that?
I
That's
know.
pretty crazy.
In a
Um,
in a small little city on the peninsula in the Bay Area, it's just wild to hear of.
yeah, San Mateo. That's where it goes down right there, San Mateo. Uh,
Exactly. Yeah.
so in terms of high school sports happening this year, we heard something from the CIF, and I didn't have time to read the whole thing. I should have.
Yeah.
But they kind of went over how football is going to start and it's going to be pushed back a little bit, and there's going to be a situation where teams could play like two sports at once, I think. And
Yeah.
it's so interesting. COVID has changed the way we do things at a tremendous rate. So what do you think about high school sports this year? Do you think it would be a good move, maybe moving it a little bit later, maybe winter, maybe spring? What do you think about that?
So what the article said is that they hope to start the fall sports in either December of 2020 or January of 2021, and that would just be for the fall sports during that time, and then they would push the winter and spring sports after that once those seasons are completed, and that'll be during springtime, maybe around I don't know March or somewhere around there. So yeah, no, I think that's the best move that you have to make at this point. We can obviously live without high school sports. It would be a little weird that we don't have our like homecoming game around the fall time or whatever it may be for high school football. That's a little strange, but it's something that you obviously have to learn to live with during this time. And I think it's a great idea. I think it's smart, and you get a feel for it in the with the fall teams competing in December or January, and hopefully around that time there will be a vaccine for this virus, so we'll be able to start spreading that out. That'll be a long process to give that out to people. But I think that'd be ideal for high school sports to start around that time, and we can live without it because we obviously have baseball and basketball until I know baseball until October, and I'm pretty sure basketball until September, October. So we're fine for the time being. We can live without that for at least a month or two.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel for the people in Texas that really, they bow down to those, those high school football teams in
Oh
Texas.
yeah,
So that's what I was thinking
10,000
about
seat
throughout this whole
high
thing.
school stadiums.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's literally amazing how much they cherish their high school, um, more so high school football, but it's like a whole thing down there. I mean, they do like
Hmm.
barbecues
Oh
before
yeah,
the game. It's crazy the way that they work down there. Um, and I also think high
it's a
school
religion,
sports, yeah,
honestly.
it's a religion. I also think high school sports is one of the most pure forms of sports, because kids are just having fun. I mean, there is that select few that
Yeah.
maybe are trying to. There's one guy trying to get drafted, and maybe that could cause some problems. But for the most part, it's a lot of kids coming together, good friends competing. Uh, did you play sports at Serra?
Yeah, I played volleyball actually. 3 years on varsity there. I wasn't good enough to make any other sports, unfortunately. I still love the game of basketball. That's the one sport true and dear to my heart. But I agree with you on that. That what you were saying about how the most pure high school sports are the most pure of all the sports, and especially in the WCAL because you get that nice mixture of people that are there to compete, have fun, and then you get those high-end talented stars that are there to prove themselves. You get that nice mixture, and these players are actually the players that are there just to have fun and compete. They're actually pushed by those stars, their leaders, and they want to compete even harder. So that's what makes the WCAL even more exciting than any other league that you may come across in California. So that's a good point.
Yeah, and all the facilities in the WCL are top notch. I mean,
Oh yeah,
maybe not all the stadiums are Texas like, but all of them are very they're able. Is that I don't know if that's the
oh
right,
yeah.
but they're completely
No, but
nice.
they're very nice. They're very nice. We're blessed, obviously, to be a Catholic private uh, institution at Sarah, and same with you at Reardon. Most schools or all schools in WCAL. So yeah, obviously we have a little bit of money to spend, and the athletes are benefited from it, and we thank the boards for doing that for us.
Yeah, exactly. We got a new field that was talked about for years, and I got to play on it like once. So that's it's unbelievable how unlucky I was with that situation. But whatever. Hopefully, a lot of Crusaders and a lot of WCL
Yeah,
players could cherish that field for many more years to come. Um,
I hope so. Yeah.
yeah. So how was that all boys experience for you? Because I came from a public school, and for me, honestly, it was no change at all. It was less drama because girls, they're gonna be in your life for the rest of it, and you're gonna have
Yeah,
girls for
yeah,
the rest
yeah,
of your life. That's what my mom always says. Um,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it was a positive
No,
experience
yeah,
for me.
definitely. For me, yeah, no, it was definitely a positive experience. I came from a Catholic middle school, St. Matthew's here in San Mateo, where it was actually we had girls, and we had to also wear uniforms. So I was getting kind of two different things flip flopped. I lost the girls, but I also lost the uniform. Like we were allowed to wear fair t-shirts and like jeans and like normal clothes somewhat. There was some rules to it, but it wasn't as terrible as it was at St. Matthew's with the uniforms. So I was grateful for that. And yeah, like you said, no drama, no drama. Just being with the boys, guys being dudes, you know how it is. And it was pretty fun to be hanging out with all my friends constantly. And then what also was good about what Sarah did is that we had the tri-school classes with Notre Dame and Mercy, who are very close to us, like within very few miles. And so we had the classes with them, which made it a lot easier to adjust at first and get to experience some classes with girls. And we obviously have events with those girls at football games, dances, whatever it may be, clubs, and all that sort of stuff. So it was a very easy adjustment and something that I learned to live with and enjoy.
Awesome. Did you guys have the brotherhood? Was that slogan thrown around a lot? Because I heard it all the time.
Yeah, No, we are the brotherhood. If you got Duke at the college level, they're the brotherhood for Duke basketball, and for Serra, that's the brotherhood for WCAL, no doubt. That's how it is over
Well, I guess it is now because Reardon's going
there.
co-ed. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
definitely. How do you feel about that?
yeah. So the whole situation's interesting because it happened within weeks. So I covered the whole thing for the newspaper, and um, it was probably the biggest story I've covered ever. Um, so we got the thing that Mercy shut down, and then like the next couple days, it was something that Reardon was talking about, and we're like, wow, this is happening so quick. And then like there's parent meetings, and I went to the parent meetings. There were not so happy parents. There were parents that were okay with it. There were students that weren't happy. There were students that were okay with it. It was a whole ordeal. And it I don't mind, because honestly, whatever's gonna, keep the school open for longer. Personally, I think uh, the all boys thing is important, and I think it's obviously something that every boy needs to experience. I can't speak on behalf of the all girls experience, clearly, but I thought it was a positive experience. But I'm down for whatever's going to keep the school open, and if it's gonna, have girls
Yeah.
coming into Reardon, perfect. Open it up. But when they announced that we're going co-ed, it was the most adrenaline we've had in the newsroom because there's a vote with the board of trustees, and
Yeah, yeah.
I wrote an article about if it was rejected. I wrote if it was passed. So we had everything ready. So once they announced it, I
Hmm.
was actually in baseball. We were working out for baseball, and I ran up to the newsroom and quickly pressed publish, and then it was out, and we were the ones that broke the news. So that was pretty awesome. So that's my story again. Yeah, whatever keeps it open the most, I'm all
So
for.
wait, you guys were the ones, the first outlet to publish it. You were the first one to break the news.
Yes, we were, and we actually had a
Oh
stakeout
wow.
earlier that week during the board when the board voted. We had a stakeout, and we were there till like 9 o'clock, and we tracked down the president at his office. He was like, "What are you guys doing here? It's late."
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but it was a really cool experience because that's what it's like to cover an actual event. So it
That's
was
good
cool.
journalism right there. I'm glad you were the first one to let that out. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. So before we sign off, a little bit about you. You're obviously big time producer now. I had FP Santangelo Jr. on here, and
Yeah.
he said that it wasn't in the cards. It wasn't in his cards in terms of what he necessarily wanted to do. So was this something that you were looking to go
Yeah.
into?
So you broke out right there towards the end. What was that again?
Oh, is this something that you were, looking to go into producing?
Oh yeah, yeah, no, without a doubt. Well, actually, now that you say that, I mean, obviously, when I first decided to go to Gonzaga to study broadcast and electronic media, the reason being was I was the broadcaster for KCA Radio, a sports radio station in Menlo Atherton that did WCL games, did PAL games. So that was kind of my thing. I wanted to be a sports broadcaster or a sports uh, um, personality, you could say. And that's what I really dreamed of doing. So I went to Gonzaga, studied there, also studied journalism and PR at that time. And then I was looking for an actual sports personality or sports reporter, something along those realms. I was looking for that sort of job out of college, and it's very tough. It's very tough to get into that, especially straight out of college. So I thought, all right, let's kind of bring it down a little bit. Let's see what the next, what's something else that I could dive into. And I thought, oh, a little more behind the scenes production. So I could definitely do that. I did a little bit of that in college. And that's when I went to my local stations here around the Bay Area, hit up Con 4, hit up my ABC7 again, where I interned over the summer the year before. And then I went to NBC Sports Bay Area 95.7. And luckily enough, they were the ones that clicked. And I was blessed that I got the opportunity and that I've had the opportunity to work with them. And yeah, so over time, I've learned to love the production side of it. And I think that's something I could definitely do. And I would call it a career, honestly. Like, I'd be happy. I would be very happy if that was my end goal. But I do dream of still being on camera. So if that opportunity ever shows itself, I would jump at the action and try to grab it, try to go for it.
Awesome. Yeah, that's along the same lines of what FP Jr. said. By the way, Joe Shasky,
Yeah, there you go.
Reardon alum. So just want to put that out there here. The
Yeah,
great
we've
Butcher
talked
boy.
about it. Yes.
Yeah, he's
No. He whenever I work with him, we just go at it talking about some WCAL stuff, and he always brings up Reardon, and yeah, I don't think he's the biggest Serra fan, so we have fun with it.
Yeah, he's very colorful. I mean, it's crazy his path. I've heard him on the radio calling into shows for years, and now he's got his own show.
Oh
It's
yeah,
pretty amazing the
I
path that he's
know.
gone down.
It just shows that you can if you have a dream and you may not have the background for it, you can still find a way to sneak into what you want to do. There's no way you shouldn't be able to do something that you dream of.
Awesome, great piece of advice. Thank you so much for joining me. Do you want to plug yourself? Where can viewers and listeners find you at?
So if you want to follow me on Twitter at @A_Cravalho. That'd be a great start. And then you can also follow me on Instagram or Facebook. Just search Arden Cravalho and I'll pop right up. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys for listening. You can follow us on RizzoCast at RizzoCast, which is our handle for Instagram and Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at Steven Rissotto, STEVEN RISSOTTO. Thank you guys for listening and have a great day.